Good day, class. In the previous videos, we have introduced the A-principle differentiation method, and as well as its application on specific acupoints. We have studied the yin and yang differentiation, the exterior, yin and interior, the cold and heat. In this video, we are going to study the last aspects of the A principles, the deficiency and excess. In order to understand the deficiency and excess syndromes, firstly we must clear to the terms of deficiency and excess. When we study the basic theory, we understand that the deficiency refers to the antipathogenic chi, excess refers to the pathogenic chi or the pathogens. As is described in 黄帝内经, the 述问, the first volume, or the plain questions. The accumulation of pathogenic chi is called excess. The lack of exome sand chi is called deficient or deficiency. So as you can see from this clause, deficiency refers to the deficiency of antipathogenic chi. Excess refers to the excess of or the prevailing of pathogens. So firstly, we must be very clear to these two different categories. We will never say the pathogens deficient or the antipathogenic chi is excess. So when we understand the terms of deficiency and excess, we will know the treatment principles directly. Because deficiency is the deficiency of the antipathogenic chi or the deficiency of exomes, chi, blood, or body fluid. So because of deficiency, because of the lacking of these items or substance, then in our treatments, we need to increase. The increasing we call it reinforcing. So the treatment principles for deficiency, we mainly focus on reinforcing. Though it depends on yin deficiency or yang deficiency, we will reinforce yin or yang. However, these two categories, because they got different pathogenesis behind them, so we use different methods. For yang deficiency, we can use acupuncture, we can use the combination of acupuncture and moxibustion. More specifically, we're going to use reinforcing techniques. We can focus more on moxibustion because moxibustion can create the heat. Yang deficiency, what are the symptoms or the signs of yang deficiency? Firstly, when we say yang deficiency, the patient will present as coldness, something cold. For example, cold fingers, cold feet. In female, painful menstruation, and this kind of menstruation can be this kind of pain can be relieved with the heat. So the lady will put a heat pad or hot bottle in the lower abdomen, and in this situation, the pain can be relieved. So this is the yang deficiency. The yang deficiency linked with the internal coldness. That's why in the treatment, we focus on moxibustion because moxibustion can create the heat. This is also the characteristics and the functions of moxibustion. The acupoint. So firstly, from the treatments, we're going to choose the treatment techniques. Which one is more appropriate for this situation? Secondly, we're going to choose the points that the points have the function of reinforcing. Which points have reinforcing? We have mentioned quite a few times very similar to the previous points. Some points, they have the function of reducing. Some points, they have the function of reinforcing or tonifying. For example, 人 6 气海, 人 4 官员, 人 8 神阙. So these three are very important for reinforcing, especially for internal coldness. 220, 214. 214 we have mentioned previously. We use for relieving the heat. But now we says we can use to tonify the qi, especially to tonify the yang qi. How can that be possible? The same points. So in this situation, 214, we focus on Moxibustion, or at least the combination of acupuncture and Moxibustion. The same points depend on which function we want to emphasize, which purpose we want to achieve. We're going to choose different techniques. For reducing, on 214, we can use acupuncture. We can use the 3H needles to prick, to cause bleeding that can relieve the heat, reducing. But now we use reinforcing. To tonify the yang qi of the body, we're going to use acupuncture accompanied with Moxibustion, or even Moxibustion only. Stomach 36, 腹三里, spleen 6, 三阴交, spleen 10, kidney 3, bladder 43, and the yuan source points, as well as the back su points. Here a few points, the Chinese name, 人 6, 气海, qi, we have mentioned quite a few times. We knew what qi, hai means the sea or the ocean. So qi hai means the sea of the qi, which means the qi gathered at qi hai, gathered at the zone 6. That's why we can reinforce. This point is very good at reinforcing. Spleen 10, 血海, spleen 10, 血 is the blood. So when we study the qi and blood, the blood is the 血, hai, again the sea. So spleen 10 is the sea, from the name, it's the sea of the blood. That's why we can tonify the blood from here. For indeficiency, although this yin and yang deficiency both in the category of deficiency, but indeficiency will cause or may cause deficiency heat. And in this situation, the patient may present as some heat symptoms. The heat symptoms due to indeficiency, we're still going to use acupuncture. We don't use that much Moxibustion. We can use even manipulation methods. The reason is because no matter the heat is from deficient or excess, they are heat. So in this situation, we don't want to use Moxibustion to increase the heat in the body. So we're going to use acupuncture, less Moxibustion. When we choose the points, we still can choose the points that can tonify and nourish the qi, that can nourish the blood, can nourish the yin, can nourish the fluid of the body. For example, spleen 6 we still can use, spleen 10 we still can use, kidney 3 we still can use. Kidney 3 is also the yuan source point of kidney. Kidney is the yin meridian. So we can focus on the yin meridian. More specifically, we can use the yuan source points. On the contrary, excess syndrome, Excess refers to the excess of pathogenic Chi, the excess of pathogens. So in the treatment, we want to expel the pathogens of the body because these can cause diseases. These are something we don't need. So our treatments, firstly, we need to remember this excess of pathogens. We have to focus on reducing. We want to relieve the pathogens. However, it also depends on the patient's condition, the body constitution of the patient. If this patient suffers from excess syndrome, in the meantime, the antipathogenic Chi is not weak. In this situation, it may be the first few days of diseases. So the onsets are only after a few days, in the very early stage of the disease. Then, in this situation, we can use acupuncture without Moxibustion. We use reinforcing techniques, or even to use the prick for bleeding. We use the 3-edged needles to prick. To cause bleeding can relieve the pathogens. These pathogens includes, but not limited to, the exogenous pathogens, the wind, the coldness, the heat, the summer heat, the dampness, the fire. It also can refer to the pathological products, such as the phlegm, stagnant blood, stones. So all different kinds of pathogens in the body depends on which specific pathogens we're going to choose different techniques. For example, a patient suffers from low backache, especially the acute low backache. The low backache, especially in the acute stage, most of the condition, it is considered as the excess syndrome. So in this situation, sometimes we can choose bladder 40. We can use we can use acupuncture, use the reducing techniques. In the meantime, we also can use the 3-edged needle to prick the vein behind the knee to cause bleeding. This also can help to relieve the lower backache. Sometimes the pain, especially in the acute stage, the pain can be relieved immediately. This is also because the pain, different kinds of pain. In future, we will study the B syndrome, the B pain syndrome. It's also similar to myofascial syndrome. Different kinds of muscular pains in the body, or the pains related to bones. No matter what kinds of pain, most of them are considered as excess syndrome. One of the reasons is because in a theory, we think where there is a deficiency, where there is a blockage, there's a pain. So the blockage, the different pathogens, exogenous pathogens, endogenous pathogens, can cause the blockage, no matter what kinds of pathogens. As long as it results in blockage, the patient may present as pain. The blockage and the pain. So the blockage is the excess. Something block. We need to use the reducing techniques. That's why we can use the prick for bleeding. The points we can use 226 actual points, 实宣, the 12 Jingwell points. So the points either the first of the meridian or the last one of the meridian. Large intestine 4, liver 3, pericardium 3, bladder 40, the more along points in the front the C-clef points and the low C points. 226 水沟 is one of the most important points for reducing. However, we also need to keep in mind that 226 is quite painful. So you need to think again if you want to use this point or not. 十宣 12 Jingwell points, these are all quite painful, especially 十宣 are quite painful. Jingwell points not have to be very painful, but because they are on the fingertips, so it's very superficial. The insertion will be very shallow. 合谷 in the large intestine, the level 3. From here, you can see the differences between the back shu points and the front mu points, the mu alarm points. One is for reinforcing, one's more for reinforcing, the other, the front mu points, are more for reducing. That's why in access syndrome, we will use alarm points. The Zangfu, the Qi of the Zangfu organs, they gathered in the front part of the body. Sometimes we will confuse that the Zangfu organs, the Qi of Zangfu organs, they can gather on the back. They also have points that gather in the front part of the body. Which one we're going to use? So here is the principles. For the deficiency, you can use the back shu points because those are more for reinforcing. For the excess, you can choose the front mu points. The front mu points can help to relieve and reduce. These are characteristics of the points, the nature of these points. So when you choose the points, you can think about their nature. C-clef points can be used for emergency. We have mentioned quite a few times. C-clef is where the qi and blood flows very fast. So it can help to relieve the emergency. Low C points also where the qi, where the full organs gathers in the low extremities. So when the antipathogenic Chi is not weak, we're going to focus on acupuncture. We're going to focus on reducing techniques. We're going to repurge. However, in the other situation, access syndrome, while the antipathogenic Chi is weak, in some situation, we need to tonify first, and then we're going to purge, which means you're going to reinforce the antipathogenic Qi first and followed by reducing. So in this situation, we can use Moxibustion first, or the needling technique with reinforcing techniques. As you can see here, although we emphasize the opposite syndromes, the yin or yang, the exterior or interior, the cold or heat, the excess or deficient, it seems that we always draw a clear line in between these two opposite syndromes. We draw a clear line in between the needling techniques and Moxibustion. But now when you see here, you will see sometimes we do also combine them, depends on your purpose. So there's no clear line in all kinds of treatments, especially in Chinese medicine and acupuncture. All depends on individuals, depends on the location where the patient lives, depends on the time when the patient comes to you. Again, it goes back to the basic theory. The three depends on the location, where the geography, the climates, because the geography will affect the climate, the individuals, and the time. In different seasons. We also need to keep in mind that these syndromes sometimes they can present independently. Sometimes they also can present as the combination. For example, now we said in the previous slides we said yang deficiency, yin deficiency. That's yang and yin. So they can present it as the combination. You also can develop into each other. For example, the yang deficiency can develop into yin deficiency, or actually develop into yin and yang deficiency. The deficiency syndrome also can result in kinds of excess syndrome, and in this situation, you will be excess syndrome with antipathogenic Chi is weak. This term in the lower block on the right side, the excess syndrome accompanied with the antipathogenic Chi is weak. This is the combination of two contrary syndromes. Excess syndrome accompanied with something deficient. Antipathogenic Chi is weak. That's deficient. So in our treatments, we need to always keep in mind the different syndromes, one or the combination, and then we're going to choose different techniques. Firstly, different treatment principles. What kinds of principles you're going to use? Reinforcing, reducing, or the combination of reinforcing and reducing. If in the combination of reinforcing and reducing, which one comes first? Do you want to reinforce first, or do you want to reduce first? So this is a question for you. Which one do you want to use first? Where can you find the answer to this question? You may refer back to the basic theory, the treatment principles, in the last two chapters of the basic theory. So these are the general principles. Acupuncture is reducing for excess, Moxibustion tonifying for deficient. And deficiency, but you can use the combination. You also can choose according to the specific conditions. When we use the 8 principles differentiation methods, we also need to be very careful to the true and false, the true hit or the true deficiency, and false excess, the true and false, because you need to identify the root causes. Otherwise, you're going to make mistakes. The treatment principles are based on the syndrome. So we need to identify the syndrome clearly, the root syndrome, the true syndromes. In the next video, we are going to talk about the Zangfu differentiation methods. Thank you for your attention.